Welcome back to Numbers and Narratives. This week it's just Owen and I, and we've actually got some Premier League to talk about for the first time. We started this podcast with the intention of talking about the Premier League, and this is only the first week where we've actually got Premier League games to talk about. What did you think about the first week, Owen?
It's really good, but not as good as having to share the studio with other people and getting their opinions and not just letting me talk the whole time. And you, I guess we're really great. I was really happy with how everyone went, but I was also really happy that we did have the actual Premier League to talk about.
Yeah.
None of the, not just previewing. You see stuff in action. What we say actually matters now. So
now we've actually got pressure. Yeah. If we say outrageous things, people will call us out on them.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Euros, I don't think everyone in Australia was really tuning in, so we probably got away with something that we said. But like I think I said in one of the previews that Andreas Pereira transferred to Flamengo, just not right
didn't
at all.
happen at all.
First match of the season he's starting, so.
Oh, and then last week I said Sancho was a Ten Hag signing, and I don't know why Cameron didn't call me out. Oh, because it was
quick fire. You only had one word,
and he stayed true to that. He didn't tell me I was an idiot, but I feel like an idiot. So
yeah, I mean the camera's there.
Yeah,
it's just staring us down, waiting for all of our mistakes, keeping it for history.
I will say for people watching the YouTube video, at some point in this video, the lights will 100% go off. It's happened every time we've recorded so far, and then maybe a few minutes later they'll just miraculously turn back on again. So stay tuned for that. We'll both look at the camera when it happens, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The last few times it's happened, we just kept rolling, haven't even acknowledged that it happened.
Yeah, we did such a good job.
Yeah.
There's professionals in the field.
Yeah, we are. Nothing can stop us. Yeah. And the other thing to disclose is I've had like 4.5 hours sleep or something. I got up at 3 a.m. to watch Spurs. And then I had work at 5 or 5:30, and then I've just gone from work to the podcast. So like, yeah, I'm quite tired. If I've got a lack of energy, I apologize, but I'll give it my best shot. So I think we're gonna focus in on a couple of games. Ipswich Liverpool, because it was the 7:30 game, and probably most people have seen that one.
Yep.
And Owen's a Liverpool fan, so that works well. And then the big game of the weekend was Chelsea and Man City. And because I got up at 3 a.m. to watch Spurs, we're going to bloody talk about them because it's got to be worth something.
Yeah, Ezra put a gun to my head saying we had to talk about that game.
You've got no choice. Owen has only seen the mini match, I think. Well,
yeah,
but it's all right. I've seen the whole thing, guys. I'm prepared. Okay, but also, we want to start the show by talking a bit about Adama Traore.
Yes.
You kick us off with that, Owen.
Okay, so for everyone who didn't see the opening match of the weekend, Adama Traore just breezes past Lisandro Martinez, and he's striding to the box, and you're rubbing your hands together and going, "Wow, this could be an exciting game from Traore." It's almost like the Steph Curry when he gets going. It's like must-watch TV.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, he's got so much talent, and everyone can see it. And then after that, he messes up the pass once he just bursts into the box, and it's like, okay.
It wasn't even that difficult of a pass. Like, he'd done all the hard work, breezed past the defender.
But it's always the same story.
And then he just fucks up the pass.
Yeah, it's just always the end product.
I've just sworn twice in
2 episodes.
Yeah,
you had a good clean streak.
Anyway,
yeah, back to rehab.
Yep.
But yeah, then the next play, Lisandro Martinez just completely bodies him off the ball. And Traore doesn't do anything for the rest of the match. And after the match, Martinez says how he bench pressed Traore, and Traore wasn't too happy about that. But it's just, what I want to bring up is just how good Traore could be, but he's not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's not because he's not working hard. Well, I was just telling you off air that he was offered 100k to stay at Wolves, but he wasn't guaranteed a starting place, and it seemed like he'd get more minutes at Fulham, which didn't turn out to completely be the case last season. But he accepted 40k at Wolves, is the report. So, you know, that's a big...
Massive pay cut, yeah.
Yeah. And he did a similar thing when he went to Barcelona instead of Spurs because he wanted to play at Barcelona. He took a lot less money. And I've never heard anything to say he's not a hard trainer.
No, or just looking at his physique, like he's massive. He's
and he's fast.
and he's quick. Yeah.
And like repeat efforts, not just like once.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he's rapid. Like he's one of those players which like really catches your eye, but only like your team would be playing against him, and he would like destroy your fullback a couple of times, and you'd be like, oh my god, he's going to give us a hard game.
He's going to give you a hard game. Well, talking about that, how like destroys fullbacks. Since dribbles have been recorded by StatMuse, the most successful dribbles of all time in the Premier League is number 1, Zaha with 840.
Wow.
Number 2, Traore with 640. Sterling 3 with 512, and Mane 4 with 500 successful dribbles.
Wow.
But Traore has about half the minutes as those players.
Oh shit.
And Traore also has a higher success rate. He even beats Messi some years for his dribble success rate.
That's insane. Wow.
Right? So that's what we're talking about when we're like, wow, this guy could be such an amazing player.
Yeah.
Like, must watch when he gets going. But this is why they're different players as I look a bit deeper. Goals per 90 for Zaha, 0.25 goals per game. Sterling, 0.37. Mane, 0.43.
Mm-hmm.
Traore is 0.06 goals per game.
Yeah, okay.
And if you combine his assists, because you might say, oh, he's more of an assist player, it's only 0.25, which is just as much or less than all of their just goals, all those other players that the successful dribbles.
Substantially lower than the other players you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be context to these dribbles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when Traore dribbles, he normally just goes wide, stays wide, but he's too quick. You know he's going to go wider than you, and then he just clips in across.
Yep.
Whereas you've got players like Jeremy Doku, who we'll talk about later, who look to dribble in the pitch, like towards the goals, rather than just going towards the byline, towards the goal. Meacham is another player like that really adds value. And because of that, Sterling and Mane are also good examples. They've drawn a lot more fouls, which is another way to measure how impactful your dribblings can be. Zaha's actually got the most fouls drawn in Premier League history.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Sterling's drawn the most penalties, and Mane was often up there for Liverpool for most fouls drawn, whereas Traore doesn't do that because he's just skipping past you and then clipping in the cross.
Yeah.
And not really being that damaging. Just for crosses in general, 1 in 5 are accurate by the average player, and 1 in 91 from open play result in a goal.
Okay.
And if you think about it, most of them are probably cutbacks and low crosses rather than the clip crosses like Traore does. So he's just giving in to the easy option of doing a clipped in cross rather than cutting it back, or even just passing it back out and then trying to get a 1-2. Just not doing the same thing all the time. And
it becomes a bit predictable.
It becomes predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, even in half the amount of minutes, his amount of crosses. So Zaha's had 665 crosses, 29 assists. Traore, 615, so pretty similar considering he's had about half the minutes for crosses.
Yeah.
Traore's only had 18 assists. Sterling, 689 crosses, 63 assists.
Yeah.
Mane, 380 crosses, 38 assists.
Yeah, wow.
It's
incomparable. Yeah.
So I'm just tired of seeing him dribble past people down the byline, and then just settling on clipping in across.
It's like he doesn't really get his head up and try and pick out a player either. He's just clipping it in.
Exactly.
Because he's run out of room, and that's what he has to do now. Yeah.
It looks nice.
Yeah.
The first few times, but then when you realise this is what he's doing and it's not sustainably leading to goals or assists.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, enough's enough. You're way too talented and work way too hard.
Instead of just turning over possession, cut back inside, pass it back, do something different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could even help. I mean, Spurs wanted him under Conte.
Yeah.
But I mean, with how wide Ange likes his wingers, if they had Traore and he was willing to dribble past people and then pass it back inside and just take that player out the equation and look for a 1-2. It could be so damaging.
He could. Well, yeah, like in Postecoglou's system, I could see him working, but like I don't know, he would. We like to fire those low crosses across
which he isn't doing
across the box, which he doesn't do. Yeah. I don't know. To be fair to him, that run he went on in against Man United, he did try and cut it back, didn't he? But he just
that one he did. That one he did.
Just wasn't very good.
And the other thing I will highlight is if you think, oh well, some of the other players like Mane and Sterling were playing for top clubs, and that's why they're getting more goals and assists. The season where Traore went to Barcelona halfway through, he got 1 goal and 4 assists across 40 appearances for Wolves and Barcelona. So he just has a problem with the end product.
Yeah, I mean, they let him go after 6 months. Did you say?
Yeah. They didn't buy him, and it would have been a cheap deal.
Yeah, so that kind of is pretty telling, really. Like he wanted to play for Barcelona so desperately, he was willing to take a massive pay cut, and yet they were like, "No, we still don't want you." Yeah. I must admit, when he was linked with Spurs the first time when we had Conte, I was pretty excited by the idea.
I really wanted to get Traore.
Yeah,
but
like at that time, I think he was. I don't know how old he is now.
I think he's 28.
He's 28, yeah. So I think he maybe was like 25, 24 or something. And just the prospect of him playing wing back was pretty exciting. I don't know whether he can defend or not, but certainly going forward. But yeah, what do you think? Is his career just going to go on a similar trajectory until it peters out, or is he ever going to lift?
I think there is a manager that can get something out of him. And people will go, yeah, he belongs in a top 6 club or he belongs in the Champions League. But I don't know if that manager will come along.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think Nuno was the manager for him, and I don't think Lopetegui was, and I don't think that Marco Silva is right now.
He needs like a very a manager with heavy structure where he kind of plays like a small part of a bigger structure, you know.
And someone who's very clear.
Yeah.
Don't just dribble past him and clip across into the back post.
Tell him exactly what he wants. Like I think Postecoglou probably would.
That's what I think as well.
Maybe Pep would as well.
Pep's a good point. Because he's so. This is how
rigid.
Things should be. Yeah, rigid, exactly. So it's an interesting one. He's a bit of an enigma as a player.
He is. He's a wild card. Like no one wants to see him on the opposition team when you're playing against them because you know what he's capable of. But like no one wants to sign him either because he's not consistent enough.
Yeah, I mean he has a really good record against City, and I mean if you can do it against City,
you should be able to do it against anyone. Yeah, that's very true. Should we move on to the 7:30 game, the Ipswich versus Liverpool on Saturday night?
Because Liverpool won, yes.
Yes, Liverpool did win. Owen didn't watch the game because he was too.
No, I did watch.
He watched the game, but he didn't watch it live.
Yeah.
Because he was too busy solving murders.
Yeah, I did a murder mystery. My girlfriend didn't accept the excuse that Liverpool were playing. She said they play every week, so I had to watch it the next day.
Yeah, she doesn't get the opening game hype.
I know. It's a bit, yeah.
Look, it makes sense. Yeah, I get it, but yeah. Anyway, what did you think of Liverpool? I feel like Ipswich looked quite good in the first half, particularly, didn't they?
Yeah, Sheeran FC did quite well.
Yeah,
quite well in the first half. Yeah, I think Ipswich defended really well.
Yeah.
Liverpool didn't get anything going, and it was just about like. To me, it looked like we were one pass away from breaking through, and then something happening, which kind of happened a little bit in pre-season. But Arne Slot, and I also thought we were fouling way too much. I thought it was really odd we were accidentally fouling. It wasn't tactical fouls.
Right.
We weren't trying to stop them with a break. It was, to me, it looked like accidental fouls. And we committed 12 of them.
In the first half?
In the first half.
Yeah, right.
Only 5 in the second.
Yeah. That would make it hard to get any rhythm going with your play.
Exactly. And Arne Slot actually said, which is kind of linked to this, that at halftime we didn't even talk about tactics because everyone was just losing their jewels. And that's what he considered what the problem was. And so he thought and I think us losing those duels was resulting in fouls, where it was like a 50-50.
Yeah.
And he actually subbed off Console at halftime because of that. He said he was losing too many duels. I did look into that because I didn't think he was that bad. I saw there was one point he got turned really bad, and Trent had to put in a good recovery challenge. But he had a 50% dual success rate, and Liverpool as a team in the first half had 41%, and the second half were all much improved according to Slot, were only 55%. So he didn't do that bad. I thought it was a bit harsh to name and shame like that and sub him off. But
yeah, and it's at halftime as well. Like
the first game,
didn't even give him a few minutes to see how it would go. Yeah.
And only like 2021, so it's probably something you want to nurture a bit more. But
did you think it actually had an impact?
Switching, I think it did have a positive impact. I mean, we did win more duels in the second half.
But that was because of him, or just because the team lifted in general?
I think it was mainly the team in general, but Konate's also stronger at that.
Yeah.
I also think Conce's a bit better at the short, crisp passing, and Konate's a bit better at dribbling past and playing in long balls.
Yeah.
And Slot also spoke about that Ipswich defended 1-on-1. They did it really well. To me, I thought Liverpool were forced into a lot of long balls that Slot would not have wanted.
Yeah.
But it was actually part of the game plan for Liverpool to play long balls. But they were pressed into doing long balls when they didn't want to at times because Ipswich did it so well man for man. But Slot said, if you're going to play man for man, then leaving Salah, Jota and Diaz 1-on-1 up front is going to be dangerous. So you got to look to put in those long balls, and that's what Van Dijk did for Salah for the first goal. He did a long ball straight over the top.
Yeah.
And it was a bit surprising to me because you hear everyone talk about how Liverpool need to slow down. How was the general instruction that they'd heard from Slot. But that's not Slot's profile. He's not Arteta. He's not Guardiola. He's more adaptive. It's just Liverpool were really in a rush under Klopp.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting you say that, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Is like, watching this game, it did seem like not a huge, I don't know, the way I saw it, not a huge difference in the way Klopp played at the end of last season and this game. Like, it seemed like, like you said, there was quite a lot of long balls, quite direct. I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold was really good.
Yeah, he was.
And a lot of like his line-breaking passes were like exceptional, and kind of similar to how he played under Klopp. Maybe you have a different opinion on that.
Well, one thing I did notice where there were times where Liverpool looked disinterested of the ball and putting their sole of their boot on the ball, which is a Brighton tactic to encourage the press, which Liverpool would not do under Klopp.
Never do it. Yeah, okay.
And at first I thought, well, was this player just really disinterested? Like, why is he not looking? And then I was like, oh, okay, he's trying to encourage the press. So there wasn't the same amount of urgency, but I think it's going to be a match-by-match thing where Slot will adapt the tactics to the team they're versing.
Right.
So maybe it's a bit harder to get consistency in performance because you're not playing the same way, but you can exploit more advantages of the opposition by being a bit more multifaceted.
Yeah, okay. How flexible do you think he's willing to be? Like, if they come up against a big team like a Man City, do you think they would ever like sit back and counter attack, or is he still always trying to maintain like a possession based kind of high pressing framework?
I think the high pressing and being sorry, what was it? High pressing and possession. Yeah, I think he'll always look to do that, but I think it's the way he uses possession, particularly that he will switch up a bit. In pre-season there were lots of really good passing combos where a player wasn't skipped pretty much. It was like almost all 11 players pretty much touched the ball, moving the ball up fast up the pitch, because that was how he thought. That was just something he wanted to get the team doing. And sometimes where it's like a bit more man-on-man, like against Ipswich or even a Chelsea, he'll probably look to do a lot more long balls. So I think it's more tactically flexible in how he uses possession, rather than we're playing Man City, let's sit back. I don't think he would do that. I think he is got a little bit of Postecoglou in the beauty of the game, just a little bit, not a healthy level.
Yeah, okay. I didn't really know that about him. Like when Spurs were linked to him, and I did like a little bit of looking into his teams, it seemed, from what I heard, like he was kind of more of like a tiki-taka possession kind of coach. But from what you're saying, he sounds more flexible than that.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was kind of expecting in this game because I saw it in pre-season. But I think Liverpool had to work on their tiki-taka kind of game style a bit more than the fast, direct chaos.
Yeah.
So I think because last season Liverpool went 1 goal down in a lot of games, but because it was so chaotic, they could make up for it. Whereas this year, I think it's going to be a bit more balanced.
Yeah.
There will be chaos at times, there will be control at times, but it won't be one way or the other.
I guess it's worth mentioning as well that he hasn't signed any players. You've got Klopp's team playing under a different manager, so it's kind of, they're not going to suddenly start playing completely different football. You wouldn't have thought.
No, definitely not. But I think one of the things that really intrigued the Liverpool owners was the fact that he is flexible, so he can work around the squad a bit more than most managers these days are very set in stone. This is my way. I need the players that can do this, and that's why clubs probably give them too much free rein with transfers, is because they think they know what they need for their side. Whereas Slot is probably a bit more open to ideas.
He adapts his game plan to the
He
players
adapts his game to plan, but he's also open in terms of training methods, which Klopp was, but he wasn't as open with his tactics. He was Gegenpress was very strong in his ways, even if he did change it at times where it was a bit less, but it's always been a lot more chaotic than not as chaotic as last season, but it's always been more chaotic than City have been.
The rock and roll football.
That's right. That he said in his press conference.
Where do you think there's room for improvement? Like, there's still 11 days left in the transfer window, I think. Shuts on 30th of August. They haven't signed anyone yet. I know they were linked with, what was his name?
Zubimendi?
Yeah, Zubimendi, and then that fell through.
Yeah, he's the Basque player, and they normally like to stay in their region.
Yeah.
I think his manager was saying he wants to leave so he could get a bump of pay rise. One of those situations.
Do you think that midfield three is a lock then? Graven, Birch, Szoboszlai and McAllister? Or I know you said before you were hoping Elliott was going to get more minutes. I actually put him into my fantasy
I felt bad about that.
Did you see that? I was like, Owen said Elliott's going to get minutes. All right, he's going in. Because he was cheap as well. It was like 5 million or something. I was like, this is going to be the new Cole Palmer. I
was surprised because he was definitely our best player in pre-season, but I guess you can't look too much into it. I can see why they thought Szoboszlai was a better player than Elliott at this point, but probably would have favoured Elliott. I was surprised by how well Gravenberch played.
Yeah.
Starting quite deep. His ball carrying ability was really handy. I actually thought we might see Szoboszlai playing as a 6 and just not a defensive 6 where he's going to like really win duels, which we didn't do.
Yeah.
But one that could really facilitate play and see the whole pitch and dribble past people. But looks like Gravenberch has started really well there. So I'm not as concerned about the 6th position. I do think we may need another centre back that's able to play short and long and be good defensively, because which I guess they were hoping for Quansah, but he's not probably got that turn of pace.
Yeah, okay.
Kanate's got that turn of pace, he wins the duels, but his long balls and short balls are a little bit questionable, but he's got ball carrying ability, and Gomez might leave. So I think as centre back we might need to look at.
Yeah, okay. It seems like a good decision to keep hold of Mo Salah as well. He had a pretty good game.
I love Salah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was because I remember at the start of his career, everyone was saying how he's just a pace merchant, and that's why he's good.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. I was reading an article today about the Liverpool sporting directors who did the transfers, and they were saying that they were so interested in Mo Salah because he was a triple threat. When he was at Roma, they thought he was a really good dribbler, he was a really good creator, and he was a really good goal scorer. And they were really confused why no one else wanted him. They thought it was because of he failed at Chelsea, and that was not something that they cared about. And yeah, I guess he showed a bit of that triple threat. Like sometimes he has a touch that can go a bit awry, or a shot that like goes a bit wider than it should. But overall, he gets the goal. He does what Traore does at the end, isn't it? It doesn't matter if it doesn't all look clean.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good finisher. I mean, how can you score that many goals and not be a good finisher?
And not be a good finisher, yeah. No, I think so. It's probably just because he gets so many chances. Then when he misses some, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you kind of want you trust him to score if he gets a couple chances.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess the other big talking point was Jota over Nunes. Klopp obviously persisted with Nunes most of last season, but Slot first game he's on the bench. Happy with that decision?
I think it made sense, and I could foresee this happening because Nunes is a 9. Like he runs in behind, he stretches the defence, he gets in really good positions. Whereas, I mean, Jota's not like a false 9 like a Gakpo is, where it's a lot deeper, but he's a bit more flexible. He doesn't have to be on the back shoulder of the last defender. He can drop in a bit deeper and help out with facilitating play a bit more. So I wasn't surprised, and also just the fact that Slot is a bit more flexible between chaos and control. That when under a controlled team, Nunes doesn't make as much sense. But in a chaos team, he should thrive.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, last season, Nunes had the second most XG in the league. It was only Haaland that had more. So like, he was really good. Well, maybe he had the opportunities to be one of the best players in the league last season.
Yeah.
Maybe if he was finishing those, then Slot wouldn't have a choice, but he didn't. So, and Jota's a good finisher.
Do you think that will probably be what he persists with for the next few games, just Jota?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be more likely to see Nunes actually play left wing than down the middle. I think, even though we saw Gakpo do really well for the Netherlands on the left wing, I think that Slot will probably have him as the alternative 9 over Nunes, just because the way he plays probably doesn't fit the rest of the team with how he wants to play.
Doesn't fit the profile. Yeah, that makes sense. I was surprised. Well, I wasn't surprised, but I did notice when Gakpo came on and he went through the middle, didn't he?
Yes, So
and I was thinking, like, he was so good for Holland down the left. It seems like a waste.
I think to get the best out of Gakpo, it's definitely on the left, even under Slot.
Yeah.
But I think that Slot thinks that to get the best out of his team, he prefers Diaz there. So I do feel a bit bad because I can really see like Gakpo really working there.
Yeah.
And he's never really got the chance.
No.
He's just been put all over the place.
Yeah.
But if you look at his goals per game on the left, it's far higher than when he's on the right or down the middle.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, when he's cutting inside, he looks really, really dangerous. All right, should we move on to the Chelsea-Man City game?
Let's do it.
So yeah, City won 2-0. It kind of looked to me like they were kind of stuck in second gear the whole game, really, but they still.
I thought that was to do. I thought Chelsea were quite good.
Yeah.
I thought that they caused the problems. I mean, it's the first game. You don't expect City to just
turn it on, especially when they've got players still coming back from the Euro. Well, not coming back from the Euro, but they're resting them. Like Foden and Rodri's injured.
Yeah. Kyle Walker.
Yeah. One thing I thought was interesting at the start of the game, they played Doku on the right wing and their new signing Savinho on the left, and it kind of wasn't working. Like Doku was trying to beat Cucurella, but Cucurella was destroying him. Really, he was crushing him. And then Pep switched the way Doku out onto his favoured side on the left and Savinho on the right. And then Savinho was just destroying Cucurella.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. Did you notice that as well?
I did notice that. And do you know what's more interesting?
What's that?
that wasn't Guardiola didn't actually tell them to do that.
Did he not?
Doku actually said, "Yeah, mate, let's switch. I'm not having a good day." And then Pep was just like, "Oh, okay, let's see how this goes."
He's like, "All right, we'll do what you want."
Well, yeah. So, I mean, it was a good switch, making them switch the wings because, yeah, as you said, Savio Savinho. It's a bit like Roger Rodrigo.
Yeah.
I don't really quite know the name. Oh, well, they use both, but he got the better of Cucurella, but Cucurella was definitely on top of Doku.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of Doku, or Doku, I don't know.
I don't know. It's we're having issues with both of them.
I get told by people it's not Goku, Owen, it's
Doku. All I know is it's not Dooku.
Where was I? Because in the game, the commentator actually talks about Doku and says how he's never seen him play a bad game.
Yeah, I heard him say that as well. I didn't quite believe it.
Yeah, well, because I looked into it and I know his end product isn't that great.
No.
I think it was like 3 goals and 8 assists last season, which isn't terrible, but it's not great.
And I think he had a game where he got like
4 assists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a bit overs there. But if you look at like the SOFA score ratings, which is based off stats, taking passes, dribbles, whatever.
Yeah.
He averaged 7.44 per game, which for context was higher than Erling Haaland.
Yeah, right.
Even though he wasn't getting the end product. Pretty much he's below average for goals scored. He's slightly above average for assists, but actions leading to shots, carries, one-on-ones, progressive passes received, he's all top 1%.
Yeah. Yep.
My question is, do you rate Doku or?
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, I rate him too.
Yeah.
But I just think it's
it is interesting comparison. Well,
with
like
Traore
exactly Traore, kind of similar kind of profile when you think about it. Like, very exciting to watch. They always beat their man. They create chances. They make things happen. They cause havoc. But yeah, the end product is not always there.
And I think that the crucial stat there for me, which is the difference, is actions leading to shots.
Yeah.
Because Traore just settles for crosses. A lot of them don't end up in shots, but Doku's willing to pass it back.
He does that a lot.
Dribble inside and win a foul, and that leads to a shot.
Yeah, he doesn't settle for just like pinging the ball in. Like he'll drive right down the byline and just keep going.
He's not. Yeah, and he's not afraid to like go through you. Like I know people say he likes to go wide, but he isn't. There was one point where there was like 3 Chelsea players surrounding him, and he's like boop boop boop.
Yeah.
Through all of them and he's in the box.
He goes both ways, left and right, whereas maybe Traore doesn't. He just goes down the wing.
Yeah, down the line.
Yeah.
But I also think it's interesting that clearly Pep knows his stuff and Pep rates him.
Yeah.
And Pep favoured going with 2 really dribbly wingers. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that Maresca, we spoke about earlier, loves to control the middle. And perhaps Pep knew that maybe that the advantage is by prioritising the wide players and looking for players that should start off a bit wider in attack and make the most of that, because Chelsea actually had more possession and they were pretty even XG, but the Chelsea, normally City don't win if they lose a possession. They need the possession usually. But this game was a bit different, and it was the first goal. Was it Savio or Doku that played it to Bernardo Silva, and then it goes to Haaland?
I forget now.
But it starts off really wide.
Yeah.
And they move the ball in centrally from that wide position, and then it leads to the goal that put them in front.
What did you think about Nicholas Jackson for Chelsea? He had. Yeah, it's like last season he was criticised all year long for missing chances, and I feel like this game he kind of missed a couple as well.
Do you know what was the worst one of all? The one that didn't count because he was offside.
Yeah.
Because there was no reason for him to be offside.
Yeah.
Do you want to know where he ranked for offsides last season?
Number 1? No, number 2 after Nunes.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done. So last season he was offside 28 times.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's playing on the last man. It's a bit harder to stay onside. But Haaland does the same thing.
Yeah.
And in his 2 seasons, he's only been offside 14 times.
Yeah. Okay.
You're costing your team possession when you're offside. And at that point, he cost the team a goal. He would have scored that goal if he was a little bit more, paid a little bit more attention to detail with the run. And it would have been 1-1, completely different game. So that was the thing that annoyed me the most. I know he actually did, there was one really good defense splitting pass that he did, and he's not bad with the ball at his feet. He just can't finish, and he keeps being offside. He's Nunes.
Nunes in a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah.
There was that one where it was like a stretched volley where he kind of just hit it straight down the keeper's throat.
As you say, it wasn't the stretch at least.
Yeah, no, it was like he did well to get there, but yeah, and you would have thought like a top striker probably puts that away. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably someone who's too focused on making contact rather than how he's making contact.
Yeah. I think Chelsea have still got Lukaku on the books. I think he's going to be going to Napoli. Conte wants a little reunion for third time or something. But also, I think they're interested in Osimhen going the other way.
Yes, it would be interesting if they can get him. Obviously, he's certainly an upgrade, but if you're Osimhen, would you want to go? I don't know.
Napoli aren't playing particularly well either, and it doesn't look like Conte wants him in his plans.
So interesting.
But yeah, he could probably get a bigger team than Chelsea, but then you got to find a team who's willing to pay the money, because I think they want something ridiculous.
That's generally the issue, isn't it?
Yeah. They want like over 100 million, I think, which I don't know. Top teams probably.
PSG is probably the one.
Yeah, PSG could do it. All the Premier League teams are struggling with PSR.
Even the German clubs don't normally spend that much.
No, they don't. I think Bayern Munich broke their transfer record on Kane, and he was only £90 million, 100 million euros, something like that.
Yeah, and it'd be about the same for us. They're not going to do that when they just bought Kane.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Chelsea do look to go for another signing.
Yeah,
but I mean they've got too many players as is anyway. I think they've got to make do with what they got with Liverpool. I actually thought we didn't. I'm not concerned if we don't make a signing, because I thought we'd probably got quite a few bodies. We just got to weed out the ones we don't need.
Yeah.
I mean, lost Carvalho. Looks like we're losing Bobby Clark. Probably not big names to everyone else, but there's some other like players that are on the fringes that have got to be weeded out. Chelsea have got players that aren't on the fringes and quality players, but they're not going to fit in, like Sterling.
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear about what happened with Sterling?
Tell me a bit more, because I've heard a little bit, but
I haven't heard a huge amount. But from what I was told, like during pre-season, Sterling and Maresca got on quite well. They supposedly had a good relationship, and then for this first game against Man City, Sterling wasn't even included in the squad, the matchday squad. I mean, Chelsea have like 40 players. It's inevitable that players are going to get left out. If it
wasn't Sterling, it was going to be someone else.
Exactly. But anyway, Sterling didn't like that, obviously, and his representatives posted a statement basically saying that they wanted clarity on why Sterling wasn't included in the squad, and like he was quite upset about that. And it's just, and then I think in the post-match press conference when they asked Maresca about it, he just said, "Oh, it was just like a technical decision, like." Someone had to miss out. But yeah, what do you think about Sterling coming up with that statement? It seems a little bit, I don't know.
It does seem a bit.
It sends the wrong message, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit immature. Like as you said, if it wasn't him, it was going to be someone else. And there's a lot of players that are also missing out, and they're being quiet. And you're 30 years old. You've been at a top club since you were like 17.
Won leagues. Yeah.
You played under Pep and stuff. Like, you're supposed to be a role model. You're also getting paid a ridiculous wage to be there, and you probably haven't produced on your side.
He hasn't lived up to expectation.
Your end of the bargain.
No. And also, I think those comments were posted before the game, like 3 hours before the game. Like, that's a big distraction.
Wow, before the game.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Imagine the players like seeing that just before they're going out to play, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't feel very supported by my teammate here."
Yeah, and he's I mean, like, as I said, been in big club for ages. He should be a role model.
Yeah,
He should know how things should play out.
It's kind of seems like he might be on the way out after that comment. I don't know. That's just speculation, but
Well, I think that they will probably look to transfer him out now, but I don't think they would have before.
no. You wonder if it's Sterling has made that statement because he's looking for a way out of the club. I mean, why else would he say something like that?
Yeah, I guess it was just in the moment, like he. Yeah.
The fact that he's gone through his agents to make that statement as well. It's not like he's just posted it on his Instagram.
It's also bad.
Yeah.
Being a bad agent.
Yeah, totally.
The agent must be just thinking about getting an agent fee of like $5 million or whatever for a transfer.
Yeah, must be.
Yeah, maybe it's also just because it hasn't worked out for him. Because I mean, at City, I think he was a bit underappreciated for how good he was.
Yeah.
With all the goals think about the goals, the assists. He's won the most penalties, third most dribbles of all time in the Premier League.
He was pretty outstanding for City, yeah.
But didn't get the plaudits, and then it was like, oh. And before that, he was at Liverpool, and he was outshined by Gerrard, Suarez, and Coutinho, Sturridge.
Yeah.
Because he's a bit younger. And then he moves to Chelsea, and you thought he's younger than I thought. He's only 30.
Yeah. So he must have been, what, 27?
28. His prime, you would have thought.
Yeah. And the reason he went to Chelsea is because he wasn't consistently starting for City, and he kind of felt underappreciated, like you said, and he wanted to be the star
almost
man.
Like the Neymar,
exactly.
PSG kind of thing. And then he's just not been the player that he was.
I feel like you do feel a little bit sorry for him. I think Tuchel brought him in, and then Tuchel was sacked a few months later, and then they've had a bloody rotation of managers, Potter and Pochettino and Lampard and Maresca now.
Yeah.
It hasn't had much stability. Well, no one has at Chelsea, I suppose.
No.
But yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. He still has. He's still probably young enough to get another top club, maybe.
But who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
He's getting like $350
His
a week
wages
at Chelsea.
are the problem, yeah.
So if you're PSG, you're gonna buy him? Probably not.
It sounds like it's got Barcelona written all over it.
Barcelona don't have. They're just gonna
money.
hope he'll play
for free.
Yeah, for free.
Peanuts. Yeah.
You get Spotify for free for the
yeah.
unlimited streams.
All right, let's move on to Leicester and Spurs. I don't know if you want to ask me questions about the game, considering you didn't watch it.
Oh,
How do we want to approach it?
Yeah, it's probably a better way to do it. Well, so from my understanding, Spurs were playing quite well. Pedro Porro put them 1-0 up, and then from there, Vardy gets a goal against the flow of play, and Leicester get a couple more chances. Then Spurs back on top, but they'd never get the goals.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty accurate depiction. Spurs started really well, I thought. The first half, I heard people in the commentary, I think Ian Dark, I was listening to his post-match, and he said like he's never seen a more one-sided half of football in his career. Like Spurs were really dominant, all of the ball. Leicester couldn't get out of their own half really, and it wasn't just possession for possession's sake. They were making chances as well. They were getting lots of space out wide. Like their build-up play was really nice, and then they'll get it out to particularly Son. It was quite left side favoured, left side biased. Son would get down the left. Maddison quite a few times made like an overlapping run past Son, and then would try and whip a ball in. And it was just that final delivery into the box which let them down, either from Son or from Maddison or Porro on the other flank. They just weren't finding targets inside the penalty area.
Statistically speaking, that was something that kind of popped up to me because I didn't hear those comments about the most one-sided half, but I heard Spurs were well on top, and I watched the mini match, but then the XG was Spurs only was 1.2 to 1, I think.
Not a huge difference, yeah.
But then if I looked at the touches inside the box, I think it was like 5 to 90, and in favour of Spurs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess they're getting into the box, but not creating those chances.
Not really. They didn't have many clear-cut chances. Solanke had a couple of kind of half chances, which he didn't take.
And he's an average finisher anyway.
Yeah.
Like, not bad, but
Yeah. There wasn't like a glaring miss or anything where you're like, wow, we've just spent 65 million on you. It was kind of like half chances, which he could have taken, but he didn't.
and it's a bit early to start him, I would have thought. Like,
I think the issue was Richarlison's just come off the back of an injury. He hasn't played any games during pre-season.
Okay.
I think he's only just started training this week. And whereas at least Solanke's been training with Bournemouth, so he's actually more match fit than Richarlison. So that's why they went with him, I think. But yeah, so first half, they get the goal. At halftime, you're kind of thinking they're going to go on and win the game comfortably. And they started the second half fine, like on top again. And then that Vardy goal against the run of play really rattled Spurs, I thought. And it was a poor goal to consider. You've seen the goal. Romero just loses him. I'm not sure.
yeah, I did think it was odd how much space he had at the back post.
Yeah. It's like the ball got switched to the other side, and Romero kind of goes towards the ball, even though Van de Ven is covering the man.
Yeah.
Leaves Vardy behind him, and then the ball's whipped over Romero's head, and Vardy couldn't really miss with the header, to be honest, point blank range. But the interesting thing was how Spurs really were so poor reacting to that goal. Like, they were clearly rattled. Like, I know people are always talking about Spurs' mental fragility, and you kind of saw this in this game. Like, Leicester scored, and suddenly we were fragile. We couldn't string passes together. We kept turning the ball over, and Leicester were on the front foot. And even though they didn't have a whole lot of possession, every time they went forward, they looked dangerous. And Vardy had a one-on-one, which Vicario saved.
And he's a good shooter normally. You would have expected.
Oh, 100%. Once he got in on goal, I thought 100% Vardy's putting that in.
Like, Vicario made the save, so well done to him.
Mm.
But he didn't look like he made himself that big when I was watching. It did look like it was a...
Vardy just hit it at him.
Yeah, I felt like it didn't need to be a spectacular finish to get past Vicario there. But he did enough, so I'm not taking anything away from him.
He did enough. And then I think Leicester had a late header from Ndidi, which was saved by Vicario as well. And then kind of an interesting turning point in the second half was Bentancur got injured. He got a really nasty head injury. I think he was unconscious.
He hasn't had much luck.
And no, when he did his ACL, he was away at Leicester, the King Power Stadium.
Right.
So the same ground, he's just got knocked unconscious again. You've got to feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Not a happy ground for Bentancur. So there was like a massive delay. It was like a 10-minute stoppage in the game while he was getting treatment. And in that time, Spurs made a quadruple substitution. Ironically, I think they were trying to make that sub before Bentancur got injured, and he was one of the players who was going to be subbed off. It's just how these things go. But anyway, they made a quadruple substitution.
Do you think that's excessive, by the way, 4 at once? Do you think it could have been staggered a bit better?
Yeah, I didn't love it. I don't think the game really called for that drastic change. I thought we needed maybe some tweaks in midfield, but taking off Maddison, who was the best player on the pitch.
Because he got the assist for the Porro goal.
Yeah.
And did a couple of other things, as you're saying, in the first half.
Yeah, I think he brought on Kulusevski, he brought on Gray, Bergvall, and Werner as well. Yeah.
Were you surprised that Kulusevski didn't start the game? Because he had a pretty decent pre-season, did he not?
He did, yeah. He scored a few goals. He was probably our best performer in pre-season. But yeah, it was a surprise to not see him start. I can only imagine it's because the way Postecoglou wants to play with, wide wingers, and Johnson kind of fits his profile more than Kulusevski does. Yeah. But saying that, Johnson was bad. He was easily our worst player on the pitch, I thought.
Yeah, okay.
He doesn't want to take players on, even though he's really quick, and he usually is quite good with the ball, like good ball control. But this game, he was turning the ball over. He was losing possession. Yeah, he wasn't great at all. So I wasn't sad to see Kulusevski come on for him. But yeah, the 4 substitutions were interesting. And then after that big break, Leicester kind of had a whole lot of momentum, and then they lost it, and Spurs started to get back on top again. Without really creating great chances. They had a late chance with Richarlison at the end from a free kick, which he probably should have scored from.
Yes.
It was a header.
Yeah, I thought it was tough, but...
It was tough, but he's a great header of the ball, Richarlison, and it was a free header. You'd at least expect him to put it on target.
Yeah.
it wasn't meant to be. So we ended up getting a point, and I was pretty upset really because, you know, if you're a team hoping to be pushing for a Champions League spot, you kind of want to beat a team which has just come up from the Championship. But we could have lost the game as well. That's the thing. Like Vardy could have put that one away like he normally would, and we would lose. So
yeah, and I guess it also hurts if you look at like the top 7-8 clubs. You're thinking of even if you go down to like Villa and Brighton, everyone else pretty much won.
Yeah.
Except for Chelsea. Chelsea still take a couple of positives away from
and they played the best team.
So I mean, yeah, it was the only club that wasn't in the you'd expect in the top 10 that didn't win really. That wasn't playing another top 10 club. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, because it seems watching Spurs for all of last season under Postecoglou and this game as well, a trend I've noticed is like as soon as the only way for them to keep a clean sheet is to be perfect with the ball, like never turn the ball over, dominate the game from minute 0 to minute 90 and make no mistakes. But it seems like as soon as Spurs do turn the ball over and the other team picks up and puts Spurs under a bit of pressure, we usually concede. And it's like, do you think it's actually possible for a team to dominate for 90 minutes? Or do you actually need to be able to absorb a bit of pressure when it comes? Like, is that not inevitable, like in a game in the Premier League, that the other team's going to have a moment where they're in the ascendancy?
Well, I think if you take your mind back to the Centurions,
yeah,
there was question marks over how good they were defensively, and it was just like, oh well, if you got a bit of the ball, then you could get at this team.
Yeah,
and Liverpool were that heavy metal, chaotic start. They lost the first game 5-0 to City. In the second game, they won 4-3 against City.
Yeah.
And then in the Champions League, they also beat City 3-0 and ended up progressing. So I think that team wasn't very good without the ball, but they controlled it that much. But also, Spurs players aren't as good as that Centurions City team, and I don't think it's realistic to hope you're going to be able to build a team that good and that's how you're going to win.
Yeah.
If like that's not to say Spurs can't win the Premier League. That's just saying that by relying on being that dominant like that City team was to get the clean sheets and the wins, I don't think that Daniel Levy, as the owner of Tottenham, will be able to financially put that in place.
Yeah.
Or would it have to take a number of years to build? And I think that there's that's probably something that needs to be sorted. It needs to be tinkered to at least alleviate the damage that happens when they turn over possession.
It seems like a flaw in Postecoglou's style of play, like his philosophy.
But I think every side has flaws, and it's just about being the best at hiding them. And then what I find is normally it's a bit of like a cycle, and that like, I mean, you look at Brighton and it's like, oh, we're playing it really short and we're just going to pass it around you, and then teams are like, okay, well, we're not going to press you.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, well, we don't really work then. And it's just like something will happen too much, and then it needs to be balanced out by something else. So I think Postecoglou's got to find a way to switch that flaw to somewhere else, and someone else has got to think of a smart way to beat it. And hopefully by that point you've won the title. It's kind of what happened with Liverpool a couple of times, where they had a really good season. They get like 100 points, 90 points, or not 100, sorry, high 90s.
Yeah.
Then the next season they just completely fall off because teams kind of work out, oh, okay, this is how we exploit Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it takes Liverpool another season to go, okay, well, here's how we switch things around to try and combat that.
Yeah, talking about like balancing aspects of your game. I suppose Spurs have just gone from one extreme under Conte, where they don't look to win games by dominating the game at all. Like that's not the strategy.
Just find a way.
It's just absorb pressure at all costs and don't concede. Whereas Postecoglou's now trying to
never absorb pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, completely polar opposite. He wants to dominate the whole game. It looks like we need to find something a little bit in between.
And I mean, it doesn't have to. It's not. You're not going to get the best out of Postecoglou trying to go 50-50 there.
No.
But he's probably like 90-10 and it needs to get to 80-20
Yeah.
with how he sets up the team. I mean, it's some of the stuff he's doing is not that. I mean, with City, how City play in possession, they just send I guess it's fullbacks as well up, but not quite as high,
Yeah.
and it really works. But yeah, there is a bit of an over-reliance on Mickey van der Ven and the back line. Maybe if you got a keeper that was extremely good at saving one-on-ones like Alisson, it could also help out a bit more. I don't know how strong you think Vicario is specifically in one-on-one situations and coming out.
He's pretty good actually. Yeah, I'm confident in his shot-stopping abilities and his sweeping abilities. It's more just like the set pieces, which I'm a little concerned about.
Yeah. But the only way, like, if you're going Postecoglou completely is probably having the best goalkeeper at one-on-ones in the world, which is pretty much Alisson, I'd say, at the moment. But then having those fast centre backs, which he's got with Van der Ven, but Romero's probably not.
He's not
as good, even though he's a World Cup winning quality player.
Yeah. All right. Let's look ahead to kind of the standout fixture next weekend. Aston Villa versus Arsenal. This was the game which kind of unravelled Arsenal's season when you think about it. Like, if they had beaten Villa, they would have won the league. So they're gonna maybe looking for a bit of revenge in this match. Both teams won their first match. Arsenal beat Wolves 2-0. Looked pretty convincing. Villa beat West Ham 2-1.
West Ham really good on paper. A lot of people really like West Ham. So.
Yeah. I didn't see that game, but looking at the stats, it looked to be quite even.
Yes, yeah, but I mean, they still got over the top in the end.
They did. So yeah, what do you think about Villa versus Arsenal? Should be a good game, right?
It definitely should be a good game. It'll be interesting because it's obviously Unai Emery's old club as well. The manager of Aston Villa.
Good evening, derby.
Yeah, good evening.
It will be a good evening for sure.
I guess the main talk. I wonder if Luca Digne plays for Aston Villa, because I think that Emery would not like Bukayo Saka going up against Digne or someone else who's not super strong defensively. So I think that's something that Aston Villa have got to be very cautious about.
Yeah.
It's because Aston Villa like to play possession based in the first phase, and once they get to the middle, then play it longer over the top. It may mean that Ollie Watkins can get behind, like they probably did a bit last year, that they actually got a result against Arsenal, who best defensive team, even with those tall players, because if they can play it through the middle at the start, then they might be able to find Ollie Watkins over the top of those really tall players.
Yeah.
So I think, Arsenal probably rely on Saka. And how good was he on? Against Wolves? He looks like he's going to go up another level this season. So
he scored his like quintessential Saka goal, cutting inside and then burying it.
He's such a good player, and I think that's something that Aston Villa will be really concerned about. Both have got good sides, but Arsenal probably be able to get over the top with their squad. It's quite good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Going a little bit over time, so we'll probably call it a wrap on that preview. Did you have any quick fire questions today? Because
you did not?
I did not. No.
Oh, how dare you!
I know.
I do have quick fire questions.
All right, hit me.
Okay. Who is the Prem's best wind-up, Maupay or Vardy?
Maupay.
Okay. Who was most impressive this weekend? Which team? Brighton? Will Saka score 20 plus goals this season?
Yeah.
Is Salah underrated still?
No.
Do Brentford need Tony?
No.
That's quick fire questions.
There you go.
Bit easier than yours last week, so.
Oh yeah, I can't even remember what mine were. What stumped you last week?
Sancho being a Ten Hag sign.
Ah, yeah. Well, that would stump you. It would stump most people,
Yeah.
I think. I was like, what about Sancho? Man, never going to live that one down. But look, at least I didn't say a transfer happened when it didn't. So.
Yeah, no, that was bad. That was 2 weeks
He's in
ago.
the starting lineup.
Let's get over it now.
Yeah, alright. Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone. Looking forward to the next round of games. Premier League's well underway now. Got plenty to talk about. So yeah, tune in next week for our review of the games. We'll definitely be talking about that Aston Villa Arsenal game, which should be a cracker. Yeah, so rate the podcast 5 stars on Spotify. Share it with your friends. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Bye.